Hi, what's up? My name is Tina. I love to talk about books, and my voice is strange today, sorry for that. We are here today to talk about my least favorite books of the year, the ones I really didn't like, the ones I wanted to love but did not love, the ones that disappointed me. So this is not a hating video, it's just books that I didn't love and I was disappointed in. So without further ado, let's just jump into it. First, there are This Violence Delight and Our Violence Ends by Chloe Gong, and I know so many people love them, but it wasn't for me at all. Like, no. I was so hyped because it was sold as a historical young adults fantasy book with a retelling of Romeo and Juliet set in Shanghai in 1926, but it didn't work for me. This is the story of Roma and Juliet, who are the heir of two opposite gangs in Shanghai. They hate each other and they have to work together because a disease is spreading across their city and they have to find a solution to it and they have to work together. But the way it was written just didn't work for me because since the beginning we know that they hate each other, but we don't know why for at least 100 pages, which is super long to me. And by that, it makes it difficult to relate to them. You just know that they hate each other, but you don't know why. It was kind of boring to me. I'm sorry if you love this book, but I was just bored because I couldn't relate to the character and the hatred. And I just think that the not communicating trope slash enemies to lovers trope is not my thing. It doesn't work. And especially when it's a YA books, and that's why I also didn't like Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Gerber. I heard so much about it. I wanted to love this book so much, but I hated it. I gave it 2 stars, not 1 star, because I can get why some people would love it. This is the story of Evangeline Fox, who believes in true love. She believes in fairy tales, but someday she learns that her loved one is marrying someone else. So she asks the help of the Prince of Broken Hearts, and in exchange of free kisses she can stop the wedding, but not saying too much about it. So Evangeline was flat. She didn't have any hobbies except for the fact that at the beginning of the book she is working in a library slash bookshop, I don't remember, and she loves it. But the beginning just goes so quickly to action. It felt like it didn't have that much to tell unless there is something happening in the plot, if you know what I mean. Like, no descriptions of the world, no descriptions of her feelings. This is just flat, flat, and so cringe for the relation between the characters. It is so cringe just to ask for free kisses and to ask. No, didn't like it at all. And the writing was so repetitive and easy. I have a quote for you. Okay, ready? Lala clearly hated chaos, but she seemed quite eager to prepare Evangeline for this meeting, which made Evangeline mildly nervous as to what Lala had in mind. Easy turns of phrases all the time, easy turns of sentences all the time, and a lot of repetitions like this, which made the reading less enjoyable for me, at least. We are told a little bit about Evangeline's love story with her lover that is marrying another, but not that much, so it makes it difficult to relate to her love story and to care for it. Also, the story is predictable, which is something really rare for me. Which makes it even less enjoyable, and the world building is chaotic. So if the characters are not relatable and the world building is chaotic and the writing is not good, it didn't work for me. I wanted to love this book so much, but it didn't work, so I'm just gonna resell it or give it to someone that could enjoy it. Another book I was disappointed in is The Witcher Volume 2. I think you know maybe the plot of this series, but I really enjoyed the first one. Geralt, the main character, is really relatable. He's super well written because he's a morally great character, and the stories were interesting. It was written in the form of short stories, and it's the same in the second book. but the stories were less interesting, less entertaining, and the characters were super weirdly written, like over-sexualized women in the fantasy world, which made me uneasy. So I was super disappointed by The Witcher, but fortunately the third volume is much better, so continuing the series. But this is why it disturbed me so much. Like, there are a lot of descriptions of breasts with no reason at all. That's super cringe. I gave The Witcher Volume 2 2 stars. Yeah. Another book I wanted to love so much but couldn't is This Is How You Lose the Time War. I know so many people love this book too, but the writing, which is kind of the point in this book, didn't work for me at all. It was too much. This is a science fiction book with Red and Blue, who are agents, and they're working in a dying world among ashes, and they have to fight for a future for their nation, their respective nation, but they are also enemies. One day one of them finds a letter that says burn it after reading it, and there begins a love story between them in a beautiful, beautiful way, but also in a prose that felt too heavy. It was beautifully written, I have to admit that. I cannot deny it. But the fact that it was set in a blurry science fiction world we don't really know of, and the fact that we don't know how they got there, beginning to fall with one another in love, like how come they fell in love. The prose felt too much, it was too heavy for you to understand what was going on. I was lost kind of all the time, and even though there are beautiful quotes in it, it just made the reading and the story less enjoyable. You don't know anything about the world they live in. You're just reading random letters of them confessing their feelings, and you're lost all the times. If I had one word to describe how I felt for this book, is lost. I was lost. And I'm so disappointed with this because this is beautifully written, but in a chaotic way. This is chaotic, and maybe it's the point, but it didn't work for me. Maybe I was not in a good mindset when reading it, I don't know. I'll try to reread it some days. But I've talked to different people about it and they felt the same, so at least I know it's not only me, it's the writing. So yeah, really disappointed. I wanted to love this, but it didn't work for me. I'm so sad about it, but another book I wanted to love, I was so hyped. It's not the worst book, but I was just disappointed in it. I gave it 3.5 stars. It is A Dark and Drowning Tide by Alison Saft. I loved A Far Wilder Magic so much that I had so high hopes for this one. And this is the story of Lorelei, a folklorist that is from a minority in a kingdom, with the king trying to reconcile all different kingdoms into one and win their faith, and she has to go on an expedition with other nobles to find a fabled spring. And this magical spring is supposed to bring unknown and super cool magic, but they have to find it, and she goes on this expedition, and this is the opportunity for her to be promoted, but she has a super quick temper and she has even a quicker wit. And she hates Sylvia, her kind of academic enemy, so much. Like so much. Deeply hates her. And we don't know why. It's kind of out of the blue. And she's hating her so much that this is uncomfortable. At least it made me uncomfortable. And I didn't like reading about it. I was like, it's boring. Why do you care? Why do you hate so much someone? Do you have another thing to do with your feelings? I don't know. The enemies to lovers trope is just not for me. I don't get it, except for when it is truly well written, when there is an actual reason for the character to hate someone. But this was kind of not the case. And the writing kept losing me sometimes. There were some lengths. I did not relate to the characters, neither to Lorelei, neither to Sylvia, even though I liked Sylvia more, neither to the nobles and their quarrels. It felt boring. I don't know. I found that it was kind of a shame for the main character to not have been explored a little bit more, from the aspect that she was a minority and she was suffering for discrimination, and that was too bad. But also I don't know if it was the point of the book. So yeah, I think it was just not for me. I'm super disappointed in that because I wanted to love this so much, but no, it was a nope. Last but not least, Tender is the Flesh by Agustina Basterica. This is just a book that disturbed me so much. So much. That's not the worst book I've read. The first one, I think, being in competition with These Violence, Delights and Once Upon a Broken Heart. But this one, I just don't get it. I don't get why you would write something like this, and it stayed with me, and it's still staying with me. This is the story about Marcos, who is working in a slaughterhouse, but a different kind of slaughterhouse, because he's living in a world where a virus contaminated all the animals and made them poisonous for humans, so they cannot eat them anymore, and the government made some kind of transition to eat special meat, which is human meat. And he's working in a slaughterhouse that is slaughtering humans, but he's trying to not think too much about his job because he's kind of not loving it too, and his personal life is a mess. His father is diagnosed with dementia and he's in a resting house, and he wants for his father to be super well treated. So he's paying very high fees for him to be well treated, and his sister doesn't really take care of their father. She doesn't really care, and his wife has kind of left him. I don't want to say too much, but also I don't want you to read this book without knowing that this is so disturbing. So the main character is not in a well state of mind, and someday he gets to be gifted a special human, a special living human for her meat. She's a female. He doesn't really know what to do with it, and you follow him in his life. This is kind of short. This is 200 pages, but these are the 200 most disturbing pages ever. The end. That's the end. It's so disturbing. There is free violence with no purpose at all. Sexual violence, animal violence, humans violence everywhere, and there is no purpose to it. Maybe except for the fact that you want to be horrified, but we already know that we are horrified by violence. So maybe why not take a political stake about why and how did the government went for the humans eating human meat, but we don't even know about that. So it's just basically 200 pages of violence. Why? Why would you write a book like this? I have to see some interview from this author because I want to understand why. So yeah, don't go into this without knowing what you're dealing with, please. Because I didn't, because I love to kind of know the overall speech of a book, but not the details, and I regretted it. This is one time in my life I regretted it. I could never forget the end. Never. And I could never forget the last words of this book. Let's stop just rambling about this book. And yeah, this is it, guys. These are the worst books I've read this year, and I would love to do the same things for the mangas because I think I don't talk about them that much. So I will do, I think, a worst and best mangas I read this year, and I'd love to do more content about them, especially because I'm going in Japan this year, fingers crossed. So I hope I will have a lot of mangas to read there. And let me know if you've read any of these books and you felt the same. I would really love to know. And what's the worst books you've read this year? I would love to know too, so I don't have to read them. And with that, it's time to say goodbye. So as always, thank you for clicking, thank you for watching till the end, and especially thank you for being nice. Really appreciate it. And I hope to see you on the next video. Bye!